5:15 on Wednesday, August 13th. So I'd like to call this meeting of the Oregon Public Library Board to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Stata.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Reese.
Here.
Gottman.
Here.
Betchen.
Here.
Bergstrom and Bonsenfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Coral. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Laura. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Thank you. Any community input this evening? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our July meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thanks, Carly. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from July?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on, is there a motion to review and pay bills and accept the financial reports?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anything you would like to point out, Jennifer?
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks everybody, we're moving right along. Now moving on to information items. The library director's report, Jennifer?
Just a couple of things I want to highlight. The first is you may have stopped by and seen it already, but we got our donor recognition book in stock. So it's a nice hardcover. It's professionally designed by a local graphic designer. So it's really intended to be a really celebrate the generosity of the community, the capital campaign, all the efforts of the folks who helped make the library possible. So there's parts about different fundraising events that we had, some lemonade stands local kids did. Every donor gave $11, $1,100, $1 million is in here, unless they prefer to be anonymous. And so I just would encourage you to take a minute after the meeting just to kind of peek at it and see what it looks like. We do right now have 2 copies on display, one on each floor. In the public area, you don't need to ask staff for it or anything. So there's one on display by the second floor desk and one on display in the special bookshelf under the stairs. We do want to have them by staff areas and then grown-up areas so they stay safe and don't get damaged. But if you have requests for other places we can put them or that they should go instead, let me know and we can work on that as well. So I encourage you to take a look at it after the meeting, or if you want to stop by another time, I'm happy to show it to you at a different time if you like. But very excited to have that available. Just a big thumbs up to Orange Whip Design and Alpha Graphics. Orange Whip Design did the graphic design, they did an incredible job. And Alpha Graphics did the production, and I couldn't be more happy with the work that either of them did on the project. Also happy to report that our warranty item list is finally done. So we have finished all the warranty work. So those are 2 major big time consuming things that are both done. Want to remind you that we're going to be migrating to new software in 2026. So they now have a target go live date of April. And so that's not that far away. So the other thing I just want to recognize is the Brook Street Library has been demolished. So there's a photo, it started on July 15th and it is now no longer there. We had a couple of questions come up, so I just wanted to share you information to make sure all of you had that information in case you're asked by community members. First, we had a lot of questions about the windows and if we saved the beautiful windows on the building. Those are not actually special windows or expensive windows. They're actually window decals that the former library director had designed and installed to just add a feeling of warmth and inviting this to the library. So she did a little bit too good of a job to do that because a lot of people think that they're really fancy, expensive windows, and they're not. So it's not something that we did save because it was just window decals. And then we had questions about the Centennial Wood circulation desk, and Public Works and Laura worked really hard to get that salvaged back in January. So those panels, part of the desk was the beautiful Centennial wood, and part of it was a really not in good shape old circulation desk. And so we saved the beautiful wood facades with local wood. So we have those set aside, so if we decide to do something when the time is right and we have time, we are able to repurpose those. I just want to mention that. A couple other things, Rick Marks, and his name is actually M-A-R-X, I apologize for the typo, was selected to fill the trustee vacancy that was vacated by Jason Mankey. And we really appreciate Jason's hard work on the village board and all the efforts he put in. He was on our fundraising committee for the library, so we really appreciate his role in that. Also just want to mention that we had gotten our Inflation Reduction Act refund for solar, and the portion of the fees for the consultant that the library paid has been reimbursed through the proceeds of that refund. And then the last thing we talked about a little bit, that the village submitted the library as a possible site for EV charging stations. So they had somebody come on site to look at our parking lots. Unfortunately, because of the slope of the parking lot and the requirements of the grant, there's not very many choices, so we kind of got down to 3 possible locations. It has to be less than 2% slope, so there's very limited choices. We also found out that it does require 5 stalls to participate in the grant, so we'll be seeing if we move to the next round, and then we'll have to be making a decision about how we want to proceed once we have more information on how that would work and be implemented at our site. But thanks to Lynn McDaniel, a village trustee, for making that opportunity something that the village is being included on. It's a great opportunity to support energy efficiency. Are there any questions?
Well, I would like to thank you for all the work you put in too on our donor recognition book. It looks beautiful. Can't wait to get my hands on it and take a look, but I encourage everyone in the community to come on up, take a look at it, and be thankful for all of our generous donors. All right, any other comments?
I was just gonna say, it's fun to like look back and go, oh yeah, we did that.
All right, moving on to 6B, management team strategic plan quarterly reports.
And this is just always super fun because we do it 4 times a year to look back and see all the special projects that our managers and their teams work on with our community partners, our staff, our volunteers. So just really encourage you to take a minute just to read through the whole thing and just see all the great things that everybody's been working on. I'm too flustered today to pick anything to highlight, so I apologize, but I do hope you'll take time to read and see all the incredible work our team is doing.
I feel like every time we get these reports, they're longer than the
I was
previous
gonna say.
like quarterly
How
reports.
do you have time for all of this?
Thank you, everybody, for everything that you're doing. It's just, it's overwhelming and exciting at the same time. Moving on to upcoming library events.
So this is the same event schedule that was last month. July and August were combined, but take a peek at it. There's a lot of fun events for all ages coming up, and that has recently happened. I know the metal workshop I guess it wasn't last weekend anymore, 2 weekends ago, went very well. The disability to disability presentation was very popular and well received, so a lot of great things going on by our programming teams.
I saw some kids bringing Legos in on the way in.
Yes, they're doing the Lego Expo, so today was drop off your Lego project.
We're gonna stop and see it tomorrow. Not participate.
That's 67.
Wow.
67
Really?
entries. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have to come and at least come and see all the creations tomorrow.
The one that he was bringing in was pretty impressive, so.
Can't wait to see them.
Yeah.
Monthly statistics.
So our use is kind of doing what we had hoped and continuing to be higher than it was last year. So our July was our busiest month in the new library. We had 24,400 items checked out. and the most number of volunteer hours that we've ever had. So that's wonderful. And I guess I should say that besides highest non-election month, so without an election, so I apologize for that. So yeah, we just hope that, especially with room use and things especially are going up, so we hope that will continue as we get settled.
That's great. I thought it was interesting that July's door counts were only 100 off of August's last year's door counts, and that was our busiest, yeah, and the busiest month. I love that. It
Just
was
keeps getting
100 off,
busier.
really? Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to committee reports. I don't think we have any.
We do not.
Okay. I think we covered village board announcements and Jennifer's updates, unless anybody has anything else. And I would assume school district announcements, is school starting in a couple weeks, so.
School starts soon.
So soon.
Teachers back in the building on the 25th, so yeah, it's coming up.
All right, moving on to 7A, renewal of service agreement for sprinkler inspection and maintenance.
So this is code-required inspection and maintenance that we have to do, and Ahern is the company that we contracted with last year. This is the same price that our contract for 2025 was for, so I'd recommend we extend it for one more year at the same cost.
Is there a motion to,
I'll make the motion.
thank you, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Any question or comments? Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thanks, everybody. Moving on to audiovisual cleaner equipment conversion to the EcoFusion.
And I'm going to let Laura talk about this a little bit, but I'll introduce it, and then she can elaborate on whatever I miss. One of the things we've been working really hard on is trying to figure out how we can be as efficient as possible with our staff hours to make the most impact. And one of the opportunities that came up was this AV cleaner machine, and we use it to basically increase the longevity of all our majority of our AV collection, so CDs, video games, audiobooks, Blu-rays, and DVDs. So if somebody reports there's an issue with something, we take a look at it and decide what level of, cleaning service that it will provide the machine, the different settings to repair surfaces and remove scratches and things versus just cleaning it. But one of the challenges is that we have to run it on a regular basis to prevent it from clogging. And even when we do a really good job of doing that, there's still occasional clogs every 12 to 18 months just by the nature of the machine. And so we have the opportunity to switch to this different product, which basically removes the element that clogs from the situation. Instead of having a machine dispense the liquid, a staff would manually put, as I understand it correctly, put the compound directly on the item so that it would take out that piece of it, which would save 10 minutes of staff time every week, and then plus the additional time that we spend troubleshooting it when it does get clogged to avoid having to send it in. So I'm going to let Laura elaborate on what I missed, but the essence was that if we converted it for $800, that we would essentially be saving on that staff time moving forward, and whatever service calls we would have incurred would hopefully offset the purchase price in the long run. What did I miss, Laura?
Yeah, no, you covered it all. The one thing I will say is the pressure that it is that we're under in TS when it doesn't work. And so then we take it apart and we try to figure out if we can troubleshoot it, because we don't want to, ship it back. And so there's a lot of frustration when it doesn't work. So if we could just avoid that entirely, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to do this. The one that's at the bottom of this page here. It looks very pretty.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just want to clarify that we think that there's going to be sufficient funding in the 2025 budget, but if there were not, we have fund balance, which we've not used since I've started 7 years ago, so we should be able to use that if for some reason the accounts are tight in the date.
Great. Thank you. I also think anything to help save a little bit of time for the
Yes.
staff is worth the
Yeah,
investment at this point.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Hi.
I.
Opposed? All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on to the art sculpture. I was trying to get the words together.
So this is just kind of a discussion to kind of get a sense of direction from you on whether there's interest. So we've had 2 rotating pieces of art out in the circle in front of the library as part of the public art committee's work to have rotating art featured in Oregon. They've done a great job with that program. There's no taxpayer funds used for the sculpture here at the library. It's funded through grant funding or donations. We had the Burr Oak sculpture the first year, and now we have this crane sculpture. And this sculpture in particular has been really well received by the community. We had somebody come in and say, hey, you should buy that. And I want that to stay here forever. We've had a lot of people outside taking photographs with it, and just a lot of compliments that it really fits into the landscape. A lot of the sizing is appropriate. Just lots of compliments about how good of a fit it is for our property. And so I wanted to get your pulse on whether you'd like to explore. We would be committing to it, but whether or not we should spend any staff time looking into whether this is something we want to purchase, or whether that's even feasible, or if you prefer to continue to have that rotating piece as long as Public Arts Committee is able to do that. That would be good to know that we won't spend any more time on exploring this. There could be, depending on the price, there could be options for creative funding, again, where we would not use any taxpayer funding to do that if there was interest. But really I'm asking you, is it something that you would like to consider or know more information about what it would cost to purchase, or would you just prefer to keep that whatever rotating piece as long as that program is in place?
Colleen has been raised.
Thank you.
I showed this to Rick, who's at the library actually a lot more than I am on a frequenting the library basis. And that's my husband, he was like, oh yeah, absolutely, it's perfect for the space. I would also very much like to see this one be the one, the sizing, the environment for it. I think it just kind of fits very well into the overall feel of the library. So I would very much support and be willing to help investigate, what it might cost.
I'm curious about like the overall cost, right? Just because we are so, we have the need to be so fiscally responsible in the couple of years ahead. I agree that it fits very nicely and is so in theme with the overall library. I would love to see it added, and I would say that I want to make sure that that does not put us in a rough spot financially at all.
I agree with everything Pearl said. I would want to know the cost, but I agree that it's beautiful. Yeah.
I guess my only other worry would be is how long is the art committee going to be able to keep rotating? They use grants and things to pay for it. So I guess if it's possible for us to have one permanent that is beautiful and people like, I think that would be good for us. Just because I don't know how long. It's not a guaranteed, right, that we're going to do this for the rest of our time here at the library. So that would be my only other thought.
I have another question about just the rotation of other art. First of all, from my time on the board, I know that the Public Art Committee is planning to continue this in the designated places now and in other spots, and are continuing to raise money and working in cooperation with Eau Claire, who has a rotation program for public art that basically the Public Art Committee is emulating. And are there other spots on the public library campus that could have other art rotated into it, that if this were to become a permanent fixture?
Yeah, I talked to one of the committee members about a week ago, and we discussed that, and I think they are finished with their partnership with the Eau Claire. I don't know if it's after this year or before this year, but they're wrapping up their partnership with Eau Claire through that program, and we'll be working with the, to have more local artists and kind of doing it on their own, separate from the Eau Claire program. From what I understood, and then we did discuss that if this were something that the library were to purchase, that there would be other opportunities for us to identify and continue to participate if we chose to do that. We don't want it to seem hodgepodge or like we're just gonna put a bunch of statues on it, but I think that with the size of the site, there's definitely opportunity for us to identify another location where we could do both if that were something of interest to the board. I should also mention Leslie emailed about this and said she did like the sculpture and thought the subject matter and size were also appropriate for the site in her opinion, and she appreciates it.
I would also echo what Carmen said, like I wouldn't want to preclude this purchase from us participating in future art installations. But I would also be curious to Laura's point on the cost. So we can make a more informed decision. So I guess what we're saying is we would like to see staff put a little bit more time. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help as well. To kind of have a little bit of additional information.
I'm happy to reach out to Randy if that's helpful and just find out. He's head of that public art committee.
Colleen, he and I were kind of the ones that were already talking about
Okay.
this, so it'd be easy
Great.
for me to just continue that conversation. So thank you for
Sure.
offering.
No problem.
Should be a big deal to continue that.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Do you need anything more concrete from us on it, Jennifer? or-
Not today, so
Okay.
what I will do is reach out to Randy, and then hopefully we can have more information at our September meeting for us to explore what options are available, and if that's something we want to pursue or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Let's see, year one energy benchmarking services and phase 2 of the solar pre-design analysis report.
All right, so I'm just gonna highlight a couple things about, so you probably remember we had HGA, that's our commissioning agent for the library project. So their role on the project was to make sure all the systems, HVAC, solar, a couple other systems were functioning correctly and optimally, I guess, was kind of the role. So what we had them do is after a year, go back and analyze our energy use and make sure that all the systems were still working optimally as intended to make sure we weren't missing any opportunities for cost savings. And so I'm gonna just kind of go through their report to highlight what they found and just some of the things that stuck out to me when I read it. I can't just click this way, which I was hoping I could do. Apparently I can't track today. So one of the things that stood out was the cost savings on the energy. So here they highlighted what our energy cost would have been without the solar and what it was with the solar after the first year. So that's great to see. I think their cost savings was significant. So then they also have something called an EUI, which is a measure of energy use of a building per square foot of building area. So ours was 25 without solar and 17 after solar. So they made a nice little chart about the performance of our building compared to other projects. And it's fun to see that after solar, Forest Edge is kind of the example, which doesn't surprise any of us. But one advantage they have is their roof is so much larger, so they have significant solar production, which is why they're able to be net zero. And so the fact that we're anywhere near their EUI rating is, I think, notable. And that's just with, our building was designed, when we built it, we had $150,000 to put towards solar, so we only have solar in the flat roof portion of the building, and our system's designed to accommodate basically double of what we have now. And so it's exciting to think about where we could get if we had that extra capacity. Sorry, I'm not just scrolling, I apologize. So they also compared what the projections about our energy consumption were and our energy generation to what what was projected versus what we actually produced, so we actually outperformed just slightly what their projections were, or their modeling was. So 1,200 kilowatt hours, which is great to hear. And so the part that interested me the most was that right now, comparing our building energy use to the production, that the production offsets about 34% of our building load. So that's significant, but also there's room for growing that, which is fun to hear. And so the other part they did was they looked at if there's any energy efficient measures within our current system that could help to save money. And they had 4 recommendations. When I talked to Mike about this, really he said the first 2 are going to be our best return on investment because they're pretty simple fixes. Some of the other ones could maybe get a little bit more complex or complicated for the people using it, and since it's just kind of our staff doing everything, that he thought 1 and 2 might be the best fit. So we got pricing, just got pricing today, and his cost estimates were pretty much right on. They said for about $2,500 we could implement options number one and number 2, which would project to save us about 7% more of our energy consumption. So one is related to the fact that we have staff here cleaning before hours, and we want to have it be a comfortable facility before we're open. But when there's only a few staff members here, we don't need to have all the heat pumps and everything running at full capacity. And so basically we set up a special schedule for when staff are in the building but not open to the public, so that we can make the staff comfortable but not be using up the systems at their max capacity. And so in general, those could be opportunities if we wish to pursue them. There are also 2 other recommendations here about, so we had the filters on the DOAS are kind of getting sucked into the unit. So next time our contractor comes to do service, they're going to try a solution and see if that works, and if we need to do anything more permanent. We basically just want to make sure the filters stay in place to get the optimum use of that. Mike was also, he came on a really windy day, so he was a little wondering about the building pressure. I had building pressure issues at my last building, and if we had building pressure issues, they're like this big compared to what they could be. So it's something we'll continue to monitor, but it's not a huge concern at this point. We'll just keep watching it, and if he comes on site again, we'll have him look at that more closely to see if that is in fact an issue that we should be working on. So then the other piece we wanted to have him look at was capacity for solar and whether or not there would be good return on our investment based on the energy use that we have. And so you're kind of familiar with the library, so this is the children's wing, this is the adult and teen area. So right now we have solar installed on the children's wing. And the flat roof is over here, is full of panels. And so the only place really to expand would be on the sloped roof. So the side of the roof here, on this side of the building from the parking lot would be where the panels could go, and those, if we were to add more, would be visible from the parking lot. You don't really see the ones on the flat roof, but those would be visible. So he identified that a maximum of 52 kilowatt hour DC of solar panels could be installed on the pitched roof. He looked at the sizing of the inverter, the sizing of the electrical infrastructure to make sure that all those things, the roof load, everything could accommodate that expansion. Let's go over the really technical stuff. So here summarizes our current solar capacity. So we have a 62 kilowatt system, and the capacity that we have in with the inverter for future. And went over the cost savings. So our panels we have now save us about $10,000 this year alone, and so we'll multiply that over the life of the panels. That's pretty good cost savings. After the Inflation Reduction Act incentives, the estimated payback for our current system is 8.5 years. And then looking at the possible future, he said there's not necessarily a benefit, like whether we add a 25 or 50, system, either one would be beneficial. There's not one that necessarily stands out as being more beneficial. The payback is similar on both of them before or after the incentive. The one challenge is because of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did change the Inflation Reduction Act incentives related to solar. So anything that starts construction before the end of December will get the incentive provided it's finished in a certain amount of time. But after January 1, projects have some new requirements, including a foreign entities of concern that limit the places where the solar panels can be produced.
Yeah.
And then there's some other requirements. There's some uncertainty about exactly what starting construction before December 31st means. And even if we decided like this minute to start construction, because we have to go through different approvals, put things out to bid, we can't just go with the contract we have now because it's over $25,000 in construction. So it is unlikely that we would be able to start construction before the December 31st deadline to get the full capacity, even if that was like our number one priority. So just want to mention that whether or not we would actually be able to get the same incentive for that is in question. The other funding source that we had for our current panels was a focus on energy, and they've used up their 2025 funding. They expect to have 2026 funding, but the incentive on a panel system for this size is going to be just a few $1,000s. It's not nearly the size that our visual system would be. So I do want to mention that. So there's some, while we would want to get the incentive if we can, whether or not we'll qualify and whether or not qualifying is to our advantage is a question. The other thing is I asked our current contractor how far out they were planning work. And because of the changes in the requirements, anybody who was thinking about panels is trying to get them before the rules change, which means they are very busy. And then there's also some uncertainty related to the future, the tariffs, and things like that, the supply chain, which may affect costs. So, the next year, the actual pricing and costs for those could be higher just because everybody's trying to do it. So, that may make the incentive, even if we could qualify, less attractive if we were to proceed with it. Go ahead, Carly, sorry.
It's kind of ironic that there's a penalty if you buy a foreign product, but there's also the incentives to build solar panels, and that, within the United States have been discontinued as well. So it's just really an attempt to kill solar. Just a commentary, sorry.
So I guess, first I just wanted to share this information with you, just so you know how we're performing, and then if pursuing more solar is something you're interested in, we could have some conversation. I shared this report with the village administrator, who was excited to see that we had some more capacity. We could have a conversation about whether some of the Inflation Reduction Act's funds that we got from our previous efforts could be used to offset the costs. While it is an expense in capital, it can save money every year as we learn the additional panels. I think the report said would save us about $6,500, if I'm quoting the right number without looking at it, each year moving forward. So there's a payback, but the payback on additional solar is much longer than the current system, especially without the incentives. So that is important to note. It's not as good as what we already have invested. So it's not as beneficial as the original investment was. So I guess, again, taking your pulse on whether this is something you'd like me to have a conversation with Martin about, whether or not those funds could be used towards this, and something we'd like to explore. If there's no interest in exploring it, then we won't spend time on it. But if there is, we can again explore whether there's any funding that could be put towards it, because it definitely at budget time would have, help our expenses.
Do you know if there's a time frame that the Inflation Reduction money that's already been returned, that has to be spent again, or?
No, that would be up to the village board. So right now, the incentive money that we got is in the village. They have a civic campus fund, and it's in that fund. with other big capital projects, it might be appealing to use it for other projects. So while there's no deadline, if we're interested in using it, knowing that sooner than later, being decisive may make it more accessible if we wait.
Yeah, I would say my gut is to move forward with what, just to explore what the village has an appetite for, knowing that there are other capital projects, but also being able to see the cost savings in the long run on this, and that's always a consideration as well. I think that the board in general is not knee-jerk in the way they do things, and so they want to look at things that are going to help the budgets overall for the long term, and sometimes that means you do things now.
Any other thoughts?
The savings is substantial on the expense side, right? And that's what all of our budgets are really right now concerned about, is the expense side, more so the capital. So I think it's worth asking the question. There's no way we're gonna have it done by December, so I think it can be a slow walk a little bit. I don't think it's something that I would ask the question to the village of the funding and those type of things sooner than later, but I don't think that we're gonna try to rush and put things out to bid, because I don't see that we're gonna get the best pricing in the next year or so.
I support that approach. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, you are correct, right? Like our budget pinch is always in that ongoing, so if we can lower that in any way, it's worth at least poking.
So what I'm hearing is that we're in agreement to continue to kind of feel out what the village has planned. Not that we're in a rush, but it is something that as a board we would like to consider in the future, is adding additional solar. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would it be possible to get a motion to the effect that you're interested in continuing to?
I will make that motion. I'm gonna make poor Laura figure out what that motion is, but
Is December it now? Or did
I thought there was, I just
Okay.
can't navigate back and forth to my.
Yeah.
What's the direction that the board would like to take? So let me try.
Here's
Can I try?
yes,
Okay.
please.
Motion to do that.
So Coral moves to begin discussions with the village over how the IRA funds may be used for future addition of solar capacity at the library. It is something that we would like to pursue over the coming years, based on how budgets and the economy kind of fall out. Is that correct?
Yes.
That was amazing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, thank Carleen and Laura. Rock, paper, scissors.
Carleen can have it.
Okay, Carleen's got it. Any discussion or comments?
Just-
Hearing? Oh,
No, I was just gonna say, thanks for reaching out to HCA to do this. I mean, it's always wonderful to have the backup that what we're doing is helping. And that the data is fantastic, so thank you for working with them.
Yeah, appreciate it. I also love that we outperformed
Even their motto.
A++.
Yeah. We are winning everything.
Over deliver.
Except for Cornstarch. No one can beat that.
So all in favor of the really longly worded motion?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks everybody.
Poor
Thank you.
John is probably somewhere like rolling over our.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing he's not here today.
I was gonna see
Point
Robert's
of order.
Robert's rules of order.
Okay, now moving on to the fun stuff. The 2026 library budget request and village budget schedule.
So this is mostly the same as what we talked about last month, but I am going to highlight a few things that are of note. So you have all the same information in your packet that the village provided as part of their direction to different departments as the contacts. So I'm going to just make a few key points. So one of their directions was to focus on maintaining existing services, and that's really what they're going to prioritize. And so when deciding whether we add something to the budget or not, that was kind of, is this a new service or additional service? And if it was, I pedaled back a little bit on it and really focused on what is most critical, which this year for us is definitely the staffing component, and that is our number one priority. So there is a worksheet that you saw in your packet that we were asked to provide to the village, and you looked at the wording last month that prioritized that youth services LTE position that this year was funded in part by the village for 16 weeks. And then for the additional 36 weeks was funded by a generous donor because our needs when we moved into the new library were very significant for staffing, and we were not able to request additional staff as part of the last year's budget request. So really being able to continue that position and have it fully funded by the village is our absolutely number one priority, which we indicated in the worksheet. We also made it clear in the worksheet, as you suggested last month, that we wanted to make sure that it was clear that that wasn't our only staffing need, and that even if we were to do that, as we hoped, that we do have additional staffing needs. And that's something that Martin and I have had some conversations about last month, and we'll continue to have conversations about it moving forward. So I just want to mention that. The two other items besides staffing that were part of the referendum question that did not pass in April were whether to add funds for programming and library budget. So the budget I'm going to share with you has no additional dollars for programming, library programming, which has historically been sponsored by the Friends of the Library, but they have some, for a variety of reasons, that's not a great long-term solution despite their amazing support and history of doing so. The other thing that we frequently get requests for is, having a better collection, and there are no dollars in this budget request to add anything additional to our collection because we were aiming to kind of maintain the status quo. The other thing I want to mention is that we have a significant amount of increased revenue. So this is the weirdest budget I've ever done in my career, because at the same time we've had pretty much more revenue, bigger revenue increase than I've ever had in the library budget outside of the taxpayer funds. At the same time, we're not supposed to increase services, and we're supposed to keep our costs down. So it's a really weird dynamic. I've had money and growth, and I've had no money and no growth, but to have both of them at the same time was really bizarre way to approach a budget. But again, basically we approach this as some of the other thing is there are some accounts that have significant cost increases, and almost always those tie back to the same increased use that is causing the increased revenue is also causing the increased costs. And so they kind of go hand in hand. So we can't have the increased revenue without the increased costs. And if the one goes down, they kind of feed into each other. So that's just complicated, and so I just want to acknowledge that. Again, I'm just going to repeat that staffing is absolutely our top priority for now and next year, and probably the year after that, depending on how things go. So I just wanted to be very clear about that. But I think that was the department worksheet. We did have lots of opportunity for us to share the challenges that we have in terms of staffing. So I think that'll be a very useful document for others to see how we perceive those challenges to be. So the revenue, again, our county revenue from Dane County and other counties is based on use by their residents who live in a place that doesn't have their own library. And because we opened a new library in 2024, a lot of people came to use our library. So that revenue went up significantly. So that's a significant factor in the budget. So I'm going to switch over to the spreadsheet and then kind of talk through some of the things that we're going to see. So I'm going to go to the revenue page, and here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It went over too far. So you can see what I'm talking about. So aside from the village tax levy, we're increasing our other revenue over $66,000, which is a significant increase in revenue. And we were very conservative with things like copy fees and temporary investment interest, which we think will actually have more revenue than, but we always want to be cautious as the budget directive said. But We also don't know, we had a high use increase in 2024, we're seeing those patterns continue now, but we don't know what the future will hold, so it's possible some of those things may plateau, so we don't want to count on revenue that we experienced in 2024 when that may not be sustainable at that same level. Because people were, maybe coming here and paying a fine when otherwise they might go to Stoughton or somewhere else moving forward. Are there any questions on the revenue you see here? Sorry, moving in, Caroline.
Yeah, it's fine.
So the revenue is the first piece, then the next piece is the expenses. And so the accounts in blue are meaning there's a placeholder number that will be updated by the village. So for salaries and wages, this is showing all the wages at a 2% increase, which is just a placeholder number. The village hasn't decided yet what they're going to recommend for village employees, but the intent would be that whatever that percentage is or however they approach other village employees would apply to the library. And so when that direction is decided, these numbers for us and the associated fringes that correlate would be updated. So those, would be straightforward. What you are seeing in this wage is that additional costs for that LTE position to become a permanent year-round position. So that's why you're seeing some of the additional funds to this 113 account number here is to cover the additional costs to make that position year-round. The other significant increase in expenses, and this again is tied to use, is the professional services line. And that line covers all the South Central Library System fees that we pay the library system to be a member. And so that has many benefits, but two of the numbers are tied very closely to number of items borrowed from your library. And so one of them is based solely on a 1-year number of items borrowed, and so that number went up significantly. The other has a multi-factor averaged over 3 years, and so it is likely to continue to affect us and go up over the next couple years. The one is just a flat ratio, the other one relates to how busy you are relative to the other libraries in the system. So if we're going up and other libraries are going down, it makes our piece of the pie bigger. But basically it directly relates to being busier, which is why we had that. This is basically something we have no control over, and it's just a result of us being busier in 2024. For the most part, many libraries actually saw their fees go down when we saw ours go up. Other contractual services are things like our photocopier, our door counter, our data shredding that we do like once or twice a year. So not significant increases there, but there is a little bit of a cost increase to some of those contracts. We also added faxing this year, so that's part of that line item. Our subscriptions went up just a little bit, and those are based on actual costs, of subscriptions. And then the other kind of notable increase here is our online subscriptions, and that's a variety of online databases. That's the Libby app where people can download ebooks and do audiobooks, which is our share of the statewide system. And so we can't choose to participate or not in that particular element. So this is again just to continue the current offerings that we have now. No new offerings are included in that line item. The only other increases here are operating supplies. We didn't increase those in 2024 when we moved to the new library. We ran out fairly quickly, and we deferred a lot of purchases to the end. At the end of the year, we had waited to wait and said, oh, we can't purchase that till January, and we were still way over budget. And then we thought, well, maybe this year would be better because we don't have some of those one-off kind of purchases, but we're still finding that we still project to be a little bit short at the end of the year. So we recommend increasing it by $500. And then outreach is again just continuing the current outreach items that are budgeted, just increasing a little bit for inflation. Are there any questions on our operating expenses here? And there is in your packet, there's a clear explanation of each line item and exactly what those are spent for anybody who's watching. And I'm just highlighting the changes because that's really what the village is going to pay attention to. For the building operations, again, these are numbers just projected from the village numbers. First, I want to highlight that We're not decreasing anything, so the building salaries include the shared janitorial position we have that we share with the village, and some hours for additional public works employees. We are not cutting anything. And those employees will receive the same wage increase as everyone else. Some of these numbers look a little different, and that's just because of the percentage breakdown of how we thought we would use a position versus how the split between the departments is used, and then the health insurance elections, to reflect that. So it's, if you're wondering why those aren't higher in certain categories, they will be updated by the village to match, and we're continuing the current level of service and providing the same benefit increases to those employees. It's just also in their budget, so it kind of has to pair together. The other thing I just learned yesterday, and this water sewer number is different than you saw in the packet, because I got numbers from the village yesterday who said their water rates are going up 25% and their sewer rates are going up 51.42%. So this line item, I took a bill and just projected out what that would be for a bill. And so this number has changed. So if you approve the budget request, we would like to clarify that this number would be the one that you want to include because of that.
That's what I was thinking. Great.
The other notable increases to contractual services. And that is in part for some additional contracts for preventative maintenance and care for the library grounds that we either didn't have in place last year or that are working a little differently than we thought. So like it includes a landscaping contract, which we hope will continue to have somebody assist with some of those things. We have a team of 13 volunteers that are doing an incredible job of meeting with the scale and scope of the property. Maintenance is a lot larger than it was in the old building. Again, same thing with building operating supplies. We're now purchasing our own cleaning supplies and just having more visitors. It's more toilet paper, more Kleenex, more cleaning products, and then also that our janitors doing a higher level of service to the building and taking more care and a really good job of taking care of our building, which means you're going through more of the cleaning product as well. Repair and maintenance supplies reflects the cost of the contract, I should also say that contractual services also includes increased pest control and snow removal fees, which the village coordinates those contracted costs as well. Repair and maintenance, I forget what that one is. Oh, that's just a whole slew of different contracts. We have like glycol testing for the geothermal, window cleaning, carpet cleaning. So that's going up in part because we need a budget for service calls next year, which we didn't need that much this year. And then some of our contracts or inspections are going to have an inflationary amount or are being done for the first time. And some of them are also on a rotating basis, so they're like every other year. So it's kind of to capture all those pieces. Again, in your packet, there's a very detailed list of what all is included in each of those line items. So I won't bore you by listing those out, but it is in your packet. If you have questions, we can talk about that. The last item is the property insurance is going down, and that's just because they did a reassessment, and so it's based on, their increase is based on last year's plus the expected increase amount, which they don't really know at this time. But if you look at that item, basically, before I added that water sewer number in, it was only $1,500 more than from the general fund than what it was the previous year. So the increase to the village residents would be very, very small. Even though the budget's going up, we have the revenue to offset those increased costs. Still focusing on the staffing, which is our #1 priority. What questions? We have to go over the 202s very quickly. Do you want to ask questions before? Well, should I go over that quickly first? I'll just do that and get that out of the way. The 202 fund is just for one-time funds. So it's usually grant-funded items or donation-funded items. So we don't have a lot that we budget for just because we can't count on donations in any particular year. There are a couple of grants that we get every year, so we get a grant through South Central Library System for $475. You see that up here for a grant, and then also the expenses down here. The USDA grant we had for the building, we won't be doing that anymore, so that's out. One thing that we have an opportunity to look at is our interest income for our donations and see how we can leverage those moving forward. But there's some challenges with using donations, and then, but the need is we have to just be thoughtful about how we do that and the interest. We also, I do have $5,000 in the donation line just based on the Friends of the Library annual contribution. So I would be optimistic that they would contribute at least that $5,000. So you're seeing that budgeted here. And down here on the expense side, they are an independent board and their revenue fluctuates greatly depending on their fundraising. So it's possible that that may fall through. But I am showing that because it's based on the last 7 years, it's likely that that's a contribution they will want to continue, and we would appreciate for them to continue.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
No, sorry, just to ask about the Friends in particular.
Yes.
If they are able to give us that 5,000 and that is the amount that comes in from them, am I right in assuming that that is our entire programming budget?
So historically, our entire programming budget has been whatever they
Okay.
contribute, with the exception that in 2023, we started trying to work it into our budget. So we have $320 in our operating budget.
It's a wild amount of money. Wild.
Lots of stickers, all the stickers.
Okay.
What I will say is this is about the lowest amount they've contributed over the last 7 years.
That's fair.
Conservatively budgeted.
I guess maybe one of the things I have been thinking about critically is like, what are the most important things to my family about the library, and where are the places where if I feel led to like donate, like where does that make a big impact?
Mhm.
And when I look at this line, that's one of the lines that like kind of jumps out to me, is maybe what I was thinking. Thank you.
The other thing I'll note, we have a new library building donation fund. We have, I think, 2 donors who have planned pledges yet this year. So this is the last year we expect to have revenue towards the building costs moving forward. And all the expenses below are just offsetting, showing the expenditure of the revenue you see above. So if, for example, the Friends programming money were more than the $5,000 we have budgeted, you see the expense increase to reflect whatever we spend on programming. Any amount we don't spend is carried over to the future year. So say they gave us $500 extra than we were able to spend, we would have that available to spend the following year.
Okay.
What questions do you have? I think, again, the main priority is definitely the staffing, because the staffing is needed to do the programming.
Agreed.
And everything else kind of goes from there. So if we were to focus on programming, but then not have the staff increase to be able to even maintain that, then it would kind of, not necessarily be.
I think that is fair. I understand.
Again, thank you. You've taken a super difficult conundrum and made a budget out of it that is super realistic, I think. It seems realistic, and it has barely any impact to the taxpayers, which is also a big concern, that we try to be fiscally responsible, right? So I'm glad that the library is getting increased funds, right? I mean, that's what we thought. You build it, they'll come, right? That kind of helps, but it also does cost more to operate when there's more people. So I'm glad that we're able to hopefully fund our librarian that we need, that we know that we need. Still need more staff, but we're not going to get greedy, right? And I think you did an amazing job, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Questions? Any comments? I want to just echo what Jenny said, like, not only do you make these spreadsheets balance out, but you explain it in a way that it's consumable by somebody like me who doesn't live in these funds, so I appreciate that as well. Like, just the way you lay it out for us and all of your summaries, and thank you for all of that organization and coordination of this, because it makes it easy for me and I hope it makes it easy for you in the long run. But I appreciate how you document all of that for us, so thank you. I'm assuming you need us to approve since it's August.
I do, and so just want to clarify what you would be approving would be the 2026 proposed column.
Sewers revised,
With the
right?
sewer one?
With the sewer number revised to be the $2,700 that we discussed. So the totals are gonna be slightly off on the bottom because of that.
Yep.
Um,
So is there a motion to approve the 2026 library budget request with the amended water and sewer numbers?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Coral. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Laura. Any conversation, questions, any other comments anyone would like to make? Okay, all in favor?
So,
Aye.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
Aye.
Caroline. did-
that's okay, just echoing everything that's been said. Aye.
Thanks, Caroline. Opposed? All right, we have a 2026 budget request. Thank you again, Jennifer. We're moving on. Next meeting will be Wednesday, September 10th, here in the library at 5:15 p.m. Again, to reiterate, John made a request for an agenda item, and he will be attending our meeting in September, so we will add that to the agenda. But are there any other requests?
I will be on Zoom again, if that's okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Caroline, for letting us know.
Yep.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Coral. A second?
Second.
Thanks, Laura. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.